prepare for takeoff. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Planning Your Mentoring Initiative webinar. I just want to do a couple of quick introductions. We have Shannon Whalen with us from the Calgary Regional Consortia, and she is the person that keeps the wheels on for us, sets everything up, coordinates us. So thanks, Shannon, for being here and all your help as always. We have Al Chapman. Al, do you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Thanks, Caroline. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Al Chapman. I'm the projects and governance lead at Alberta Mentoring Partnership.
And then also from AMP, we have Andy with us.
Hey, Andy Harris at AMP, website and communications and all that fun stuff. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Andy. And I'm Caroline Gosling. I was formerly with AMP, and now I am just now I am a community member friend of AMP, and am staying involved in the mentoring in schools work. So I just would like to start with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on and support mentoring for youth in the traditional territories across Alberta of the many First Nations, from Treaty 6, 7, and 8, the Métis of the 8 Alberta settlements, and Inuit people whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. So, and I know we have some representation from across different parts of the province, so it's great to have that here today. So now we would like to get to know you a little bit. And I think we are a small enough group that we can have you just unmute and tell us who you are, where you're from, what's your role that brought you here today, and one thing that you hope to get out of the webinar. So maybe we can start with Suzanne.
I'll just turn on my camera. So I'm Suzanne. I work out of Sunrise House, our youth emergency shelter here in Grand Prairie. I work with the youth on the rise currently, and we are looking at seeing how a mentorship program would fit in with our programs. Yeah, and so I know Brandon and Mandy is our practicum student. So.
Okay, thanks. Well, we'll go to Mandy next.
Hi, yeah, I'm Mandy. I'm the practicum student for Sunrise House, and I'm here to learn it all.
Okay. And let's see, Janelle.
Hi, everybody. My name is Janelle, and I work with the Central Alberta FASD network. I'm the Correction Services Coordinator, and I run a restorative practices, restorative diversion court program. And so we're looking at putting in a mentor piece into this program. So, and I'm starting from scratch. I don't know much about putting any, like running a mentoring program or using that as a component in my program. So I'm a baby in this.
Perfect. Thanks, yeah. Janelle. In my other life, I do work around restorative practices in schools and restorative justice. So there you go. And the two do cross over. And I think we have Brandon.
My name is Brandon. I'm also from Grand Prairie, as Suzanne said. I'm basically here to learn everything about mentoring and how to input it into my group of young adults.
Cool. All right. Well, it looks like we're going to be a small group, so we can really kind of personalize it for what people are looking for. And if you have any questions or comments as we go, please feel free. Again, we're a small enough group that you can just feel free to unmute and jump on in. So one of the things we were going to talk about, and I don't know if people already kind of have in mind what kinds of mentoring you're looking at, but we'll talk about a few different options. We're going to give you time to actually look at a couple of the resources that we have with pieces in them specifically about planning your program and questions to consider and things to think about. So we're going to allow you a bit of time to look at those and then do some group sharing. And then we'll do a wrap up and talk about next steps. So hopefully that works for people. And again, if there's other things you'd like to know, feel free to ask. So just a little bit about who AMP is. So AMP is a partnership made up of government ministries, other government-funded organizations, schools, community agencies, and youth working together to provide more mentoring opportunities for youth in Alberta. So really, we know how important mentoring can be for youth. So really, it's around, our vision is around how young people thrive through mentoring relationships. And of course, our mission is to strengthen Alberta's capacity to support and enhance mentoring. So AMP doesn't do any direct mentoring. Our role is really around supporting organizations that do provide mentoring or are looking at starting to provide mentoring. So that's who we are. And you may already know that because you're here, so you probably think this is important. But some of the reasons why we might want to think about mentoring is it really supports welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning environments. So that's particularly in schools, but that can also apply to other organizations or other places as well. It really provides a sense of belonging and purpose to our children and youth. There's lots of research about the impact on positive mental health of students or of youth. So lots of information there around how that helps out. It can help our youth with increased attendance and engagement and also high school completion. So the first type of mentoring we can talk about is school-based mentoring. And I don't think any of you are directly working with schools, but it's also if you do have contact perhaps with the schools that your youth are involved with, it's something that could also be brought up with them. Sometimes schools don't know anything about mentoring and what it could look like. So when we talk about school-based mentoring, it's mentoring that generally happens in the school. So either it is community adults coming into the school, it might be supported by an agency, it might not be. Some communities don't have the luxury of having a mentoring agency like Big Brothers Big Sisters. So it can look very different depending on where you are. But it would look like community members, and there's lots of happening right now with intergenerational mentoring. So it's those adults coming into the school to work with students. So again, in some communities, they've got sports teams, so kind of young adult sports teams who are in the community that come in and work with students kind of once a week. Or there are sometimes businesses who allow their employees to come in and mentor, again, kind of once a week for an hour. Seniors are a really untapped resource as far as mentoring goes. So coordinating those seniors, older adults to come in and mentor youth. So those are some different types of in-school mentoring that happen. Generally speaking, with all forms of mentoring, where we tend to see the best results, although it's not always possible, is if the mentor and the mentee meet once a week for about an hour. So that seems to be where you get the most impact. That's not always possible. So, my philosophy is some is better than none, but that's kind of where the gauge for where we see really great results. And those relationships form more quickly. Team mentoring is another form of in-school mentoring, generally speaking. And this is when we have older teens mentoring younger children. So it could be high school students mentoring junior high or elementary students. It could be junior high students mentoring elementary. And the benefit are huge for both. So on both sides of that relationship, we see benefits. And the teens really learn a lot. Their self-confidence builds. They learn lots of social skills from mentoring younger students. And of course, the younger students get a lot out of it by having an older buddy. So, and kind of in schools, our teens are a bit of a captive audience. So sometimes it's easier to recruit our older students to mentor than it is community members. So that's another, and again, that once a week for about an hour works really well. Often what we see is the older students traveling to the elementary school to do the mentoring. Sometimes we see the elementaries going to the junior high or high school. Some of that depends on how the proximity. Can the students walk between the schools? Do we need to think about transportation? Those are some of the considerations. But again, a really effective and growing area of mentoring. So, with some of the youth that you work with, while you might be thinking about how they could really benefit from a mentor, you might want to think about, could they benefit from being a mentor? And, sometimes when we talk about team mentoring, people always think about, or, usually think about who are our really bright kids who are doing well academically, who are our really, leaders in the school. But I really encourage people to look for those, I like to call them unlikely leaders. So, the students that may not see themselves as being a leader, when you ask for people to volunteer to be a mentor, they may not see themselves as being somebody who has something to offer. But if we can kind of tap them on the shoulder and tell them, why we think they'd be great at this, I really think it's cool to see how some of those students can really rise to the occasion, and it can make a big difference for both them and the youth that they're mentoring. So something there to think about it as, it kind of a different kind of mentoring. There's also informal mentoring that happens, and you may see that in some of your organizations where it's just the older youth kind of take a younger youth under their wing. It can happen on teams where you get even coaches are informal mentors to those players on their teams, or you'll see the older students on the teams kind of mentoring the younger. Any kind of cross-grade or cross-age activities. So if in your organizations you have something like that where youth are coming together and they're different ages, there's some really great opportunities there to look at how those relationships can be strengthened. The idea of transition mentors, so mentoring, one out of one situation into another. So again, in schools, we look at those transitions between elementary and junior high and senior high. How can we ease some of the anxiety about those transitions by pairing up, say, students in grade 8 with students in grade 6. So when those 6s come to school, they have an older buddy. So some of those kinds of transition things. I know that there is currently a project, and Al can probably speak about it in its infancy, looking at working with youth in care, and how do we help those youth in care how do we find mentors to help those youth in care with their transition into adulthood? So thinking about some of those kinds of situations where a young person might benefit from having a mentor, and they may be longer term, they may not be. So kind of looking at how that can vary depending on the situation and what the needs are. So that really quickly are some different forms of mentoring that exist that we know about. Any questions or thoughts about those different types? Nope. Okay. And when we think about that, I should have talked about that. When we think about that in-school mentoring, it doesn't have to be in a school. So, I know a group home that has the mentoring happening, and the mentors come to the group home, or they come to the group home and then they go somewhere with that young person. So, it's almost more of that community mentoring, but it's set up by an organization like a group home when you don't have big brothers, big sisters to match your kids outside of school or outside of another facility or organization. So it can also look like that as well. So no questions? I noticed that Lauren has joined us. And Lauren, we did a quick round of introductions, just your name, where you're from, your role that brought you to this session, and what you hope to get out of it.
Yeah, that sounds great. Sorry, I just didn't have the link.
No problem.
Yes, my name is Lauren Taylor, and I work actually at Mount Royal University, being our mentorship and work integrated learning coordinator. And we have a mentorship program right now connecting upper year students with alumni and community members to help ease that transition into the workforce, but really looking to grow that program and kind of shift some timing. So really hoping to, learn what other people do. I don't know if anyone else is in post-secondary, and just to get some ideas of how to kind of grow the program, I guess, and kind of be able to support students in maybe that kind of one-off point, and maybe, they're looking to connect with somebody for like a whole year to kind of really grow that support as well.
Great, thanks, Lauren, welcome. So what we,
Wait, Caroline.
Yep.
I could just jump in for a second. So
Sure.
maybe I can talk a little bit to Lauren afterward, but the post-secondary sector is one that I know that Sarah from our team is really kind of spending a lot of time with these days. And I know she's spoken to Grant McEwen as well as some university groups at the U of A. So Lauren, this could be, she's looking at putting actually a little group together that would meet maybe quarterly and kind of talk about some of the programs and share and learn from each other on what they've been doing. So let's connect at the end, and I can talk to you a little bit more about that and get you in touch with Sarah to kind of help on that side for you.
Great, thanks, Al. What we're going to do is just give you a couple of minutes to kind of think about where you're at with your mentoring initiative. Is it, how far along kind of planning it are you? What are you thinking about either starting or enhancing? So was there, when we talked about those different types of mentoring, did any of those kind of resonate for you? And then what kind of support would you require? So we're just going to give you a couple of minutes to think about that. And then what we're going to do is share some links to some of the resources with planning documents in there for you to take a peek through.
I can. So I can see this. I like the transition mentors. So like helping youth move into a different phase. So right now we currently work with more higher risk youth who are transitioning into independence or seeking mental health addiction supports. And we're kind of looking at developing like a peer mentorship. And then just trying to ensure that both like the mentoree and the mentor are safe, as there could be like vulnerable youth. And I'm just kind of thinking that maybe we should coordinate with the big brothers. I know, like I was thinking more like maybe the older youth with the younger youth, because we work with 12 to 24. But I was kind of thinking of like how to keep them safe. Like, would you just do it at one site, say like this is the evening that if we have open, like we don't currently have an actual place yet that is like permanent. I could see it in our new shelter though.
Yeah, and yeah, And Suzanne, you do, I mean, there is the Grand Prairie Big Brothers Big Sisters who even, you know, even could help you talk through, I'm sure, some of those issues that you're considering, right? Like the safety piece. But I know, you know, I know in some programs, and particularly around team mentoring, where we're not going to have people do secured like police checks and child welfare checks. They do, the way that they do ensure safety is exactly what you were thinking. So they just have the older and younger youth meet, you know, individually in their pairs, but in the same place, like in the same kind of room. And then there's always an adult there, somebody from the organization there to kind of monitor things. And, you know, you have some, agreements about what that's going to look like and if they leave the room and those kinds of things. So that tends to be the most common way to address that and to ensure that safety without having them to go through all those checks.
Oh, I like that idea. We did have like a youth who was in crisis and another youth attend the hospital with them. And then that person like kind of like gained an unhealthy attachment. And it was just like, I'm so sorry. Like both of them. I'm like,
yeah,
it was a one-off thing. Like they're not your new best friend.
And, you know, Suzanne, there is, and we'll go there, you know, before we end today, there's online training for the mentor and the mentee. So it explores kind of some of those boundary pieces in there for, you know, for both. So that might be helpful as well.
That's what we were really looking for, is like mentorship training for like the youth to see like, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for.
And I know at least in Edmonton, Big Brothers Big Sisters will do some enhanced training. So Grand Prairie might do that as well. So if your mentors took that initial online kind of mentoring orientation, then sometimes they'll come and go a little bit deeper and so into some of those areas like you identified.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to hear about the training opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else want to share kind of where they're at, or?
Yeah, I can
Please.
share what we're thinking. So
Thanks, Gina.
the youth portion of my program, so it's youth that are in conflict with the law. So we don't have city police here, we have RCMP. So
Right.
run-ins with RCMP, charges before the court, or they're on probation and at high risk of not being able to comply with their conditions, and their youth with FASD, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. So because there's such a high number of people with FASD in the criminal court system, just so you know, it's about 70%. And so what I would like to do, because I'm the only staff in this program, is so one of my RCMP kind of liaison that is connected to my program, he also teaches justice studies class at the Polytechnic here. And so he has had some justice students come forward and say that they would like to do some mentoring. I think there's 60 people on the wait list for Big Brothers Big Sisters here. So I mean, it's like a 2-year wait. And so that's not really like the best option. Like none of the individuals that I work with have mentors in their life. And typically they're kids that are living in group homes or kind of couch surfing. So I think that, yeah, they would benefit for sure from having a mentor. Plus it will give the justice students an opportunity for good exposure of clients that will come their way once they're out there being probation officers or whatever they're going to do. I'm lucky enough that my new I'm in Red Deer. We just got a program supervisor, and he was an RCMP member that was also connected with us starting this program, and now he's left the RCMP and now become my program supervisor here for the network. And he has a little bit of experience with kind of mentorship through the RCMP. So I'm going to use his knowledge a lot, but it's just going to be interesting. I would love to say that, you know, if we had individuals that completed my program successfully, that maybe they could go on and mentor, because we do have adults and youth, that maybe they could go on and mentor others, but most of them are not in a position to do that in a healthy way. And so that's not really going to be an option. It would be very rare. But I think the opportunity to bring the justice students in is a good starting point. And then maybe at some point, some community volunteers will do all the training around understanding FASD and then provide like ongoing support. And yeah, so I think the things that I think that I need or that I'm kind of worried about would be keeping the mentors engaged. So if they're in, say, a justice class and they can give us, say, 3 months of mentoring a youth for 2 hours a week or whatever, school gets busy, like people get busy. And so, and particularly with FASD, keeping things the same routine structure is extremely important, especially with high-risk youth and they have attachment issues and stuff. So people keeping mentors engaged and helping them to kind of follow through with the commitment that they're making is a concern that I have. And then also, like, we would not, because I'm the only staff, I would not be present during the time that the mentor and mentee would be. Is mentee the right word for the?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So when the mentor and mentee are meeting, I would not be available for that. So, you know, it's all going to be based on like safety risks. Some of my youth are super high risk and there's a high chance that a mentor would be punched. So we're not going to put somebody in that situation. And then just the emotional safety, right? A lot of these youth have the attachment issues for sure. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
What a great opportunity, Janelle, for those justice students to learn about individuals with FASD and what that, you know, what do they need to know? And I mean, that would be a great experience for on both sides.
I think it's going to be a great partnership for sure. Yeah, but like I'm starting from scratch. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm thankful that I have Derek. I can rely on him some for his expertise in this area, but it'll be me kind of running it though.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Janelle. Lauren.
Hi, Janelle. I just actually had a comment based on all of what you said. That sounds like a really cool program and really neat opportunity. I know that you said one of your concerns was that if you partner with the justice program, that students might not, you know, commit to that, or they might. Part of my role that I've just started is actually supporting kind of employers and students to work together and do projects. And one of the things that I have learned and kind of understand is that if your partnership, if the students have it as part of like their curriculum and it's built into that, and by working with the school and the program, you kind of develop a project and it's like students get grades for it as part of that. What I've heard from my colleagues and like what I'm hoping to do as well is that is actually going to allow the students to commit to that more and follow through with that. So that might be something that might be of assistance for you kind of when going forward and developing that. Yeah, just an idea, because I'm just learning about that and I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool, and wanted to share that in case that might be helpful for you.
That, you know, that is really helpful, Lauren, because and I think because the RCMP, my RCMP liaison is the instructor for one of the courses, that, yeah, it could maybe be kind of worked into that a little bit. So yeah, I'll be having conversations with him.
On a personal note, I totally did that in university. One of my classes was like seniors in addictions, and then we had to have a mentorship with a senior, and we spent our like semester building rapport with them, and then wrote a paper. And we had to do something for them at the end.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share comments? Okay. We're going to talk about a couple of our resources, and now that I kind of see who's here, there's one more that I'll add into the chat. But these are some. So one of them is about building mentoring relationships in schools, but the planning documents can also be added, can also be used for other kinds of organizations, and the questions would still apply. So the section in that resource that really looks at developing your program starts on page 22, and it's called Designing and Implementing Your Mentoring Program. And then there's some of in the appendices, there are some that again have questions and things to think about as you look at starting something up. So Appendix A3, A5, and A6 are particularly helpful. And I think Al is putting the links in the chat, so hopefully you can download them. The Team Mentoring Toolkit, again, it's really geared at youth mentoring younger youth. And so there is a section in there called Planning Your Program that is really kind of get you started. And also in that document, there are different tools, and they're all in Word form that you can adapt for your own setting. So there are things like if you want to kind of do an interview with your mentors, there's samples of that. There's different kinds of templates for letters that you might need. There's all kinds of different tools in there that you can look at, and there's some planning tools as well. And the one that I didn't think about, but I will add to the chat, is the creating a quality community-based mentoring program. So if you want to start looking at those two, I can make sure that that one gets in the chat and the sections that you might want to look at. So we're going to give you about, I don't know, Al, we could probably do 15, 20-ish minutes to look through those. So if you want to just turn your cameras off and peruse, or you can leave them on. Obviously, Al and I won't go anywhere. So if you have any questions, just let us know.
I know I'm still going through it, so I could use some more time, but if everybody else is fine, then I can look at it again later.
No, well, we can, why don't we go for another like 10 minutes, and then we can come back together and have some discussion, and we can share a few more of the other kinds of resources that we have. Okay, 10 more minutes. Now you have them, and you can certainly look through them, and then our contact information is at the end, so you can certainly reach out with any questions that you have. So we were going to do this in breakouts, but we're a small enough group. So just, kind of what were your thoughts around those resources? How might you be able to use them? What else would you need for support? So we'll just open it up for people.
I more so have a question.
Sure.
Okay, in the one with the community resource mentorship program, it really talked about identifying your program population.
Mm-hmm.
Has it ever been done as a broad, like if you are looking for support, let's match you up with a person? Yeah, has it been done that way? I really see, like, currently our community does have Big Brothers Big Sisters. There's a huge wait list as well,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the mentorship. But I mean, maybe we could collaborate with them on something on the side or something like that, like a smaller thing. But I see this more so being used in our new shelter with like youth transitioning up into the transitional units. But like, I don't know, like, I wonder, do you have to pinpoint it for just like newcomers or people with disabilities, or can you mix and match?
I think it could be mixed and matched. I don't think that it has to be one. I mean, I think in some cases it kind of is one specific population, for lack of a better word. But I think in other places it's just kind of youth in general. And then, you know, going out to the community. And Suzanne, I think you could certainly see if you could do some work with Big Brothers Big Sisters, but there also might be an opportunity to kind of find a pool of mentors specifically for the youth that you're thinking about, from, I don't know, businesses that support your organization, or even sometimes service clubs that are involved in mentoring or have, you know, think mentoring is important. So there's lots of different places too, I think you could reach out to. And again, you know, you might have a much more diverse group of youth.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Did people find pieces of that useful, things that they can go back to and take a look at as you look at moving forward? Yeah. Anything that you didn't see that you felt was missing or that you would be helpful?
What is the cost? Sorry, what is the cost associated with the mentorship training?
The online training is free.
Oh, okay. I was like,
No
I didn't
cost.
really see a price. So, okay.
Yeah, no cost. And again, you know, the bigs may be able to come out and do some supplementary training, and from what I know, they don't charge either. So, yeah. Anything else that you think would have been helpful or would be helpful that you didn't see? No? Okay.
I think Lauren has her hand up. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lauren, yeah.
Caroline, sorry. I just raised my hand on the thing.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just read through the information, and I thought that the piece around staffing is really important. Having developed a mentorship program for the CNIB previously, and Suzanne, I was just typing in the chat a message for you, because I know were talking about certain populations, and we were supporting adults with other adults, but I think the same premise could be used when supporting youth. We were supporting individuals with sight loss, but we were supporting individuals in a very particular moment in their sight loss journey. And we were supporting individuals who were right in that initial phase, and they were wanting to help ease into their adjustment to connect with somebody. And that helped to define our program a little bit. And then just for myself, in terms of reading the information, the staffing piece really came out as something to be important to keep in mind, because usually there's only one person who runs the program, or it's only half of your role, which is the case in my position at Mount Royal. And just developing the program in a way that it is still sustainable just with you, and that there's still room to grow the program if needs become more, or you want to include another aspect of mentoring, I think is something really important. And I know not necessarily always the easiest thing to think about, but I think is something really realistic to make sure that it's feasible and like scalable for you and the staff that are running it. So that was something good for like me to remember when developing, and I think just like for everybody else.
Thanks, Lauren. I think part of that staffing piece too, and it kind of ties into the keeping people engaged that Janelle brought up, is that idea of that ongoing support for your mentors. You know, and I think that's one way to keep them engaged, but also, you know, to do check-ins and find out how is it going, and if they have any questions, or did something come up, and I don't know how feasible it is, but I'm thinking too with, you know, again, with youth and teen mentoring, where you sort of have them captive in the school, it's easy to get together with them and have a conversation about how are things going and as a group. But now with our, now that we're more adept at the online, you know, there might even be opportunities to meet with them as a group online and talk about how are things going and are there questions, and kind of troubleshoot and problem solve. So again, that's a piece, that staffing component, but it's a piece that has been found really important and really successful in keeping those mentors engaged. Okay. So some of you might have already been on the website, but on here, on our website, there are also other resources. I wonder if I can go there and you can see it. Let's see if this works. Oh, are you seeing the website? No, okay. I guess I need to go. Hang
You have to
on.
share your browser, yeah.
I need to go new share. Oh, here we go. Now can you see it? Yay, okay. So Al, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, the partner and newsletter, and then I can go into some of the other resources.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to scroll down to the bottom of that page, then great. Oh, just back up there. Yeah.
Here?
Go a little bit farther down, because the newsletter link is at the bottom here.
Oh,
There we
okay.
go. Yeah. So what Caroline and I were talking about, so one of the best things to do is to go to the bottom of this page and sign up for our newsletter, which comes out every second Wednesday. And it'll show upcoming webinars. It'll show other events that are taking place with other partners around the province. And it's a great way, and I'm seeing a lot of this today, that people have a lot of common questions and common themes in their work that they could be sharing between you. So that's a great way to connect with other partners around the province, other programs, other things that are going on that may be of interest to you. So the newsletter is great. Like I say, and it's just every second Wednesday we have it sent out. And then you can look at getting involved. And there's ways to sign up as a partner, either as a partner that you're looking for. There we go. I'm just going to say, which one is it there, Andy?
I think it's a networking.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to click through on that one. We can kind of talk about it. So you can sign up to be, there's the 4 categories across there. So you can sign up, and then we'll send you materials and then work with you. And you can also set up a profile on our site. So those who are looking for volunteers, there's a way of people can search, they're in a certain area, they can search on our site and go, oh, this group is in Grand Prairie, I'm looking to volunteer, and then they can connect to you, and then they'll be referred to you directly. So there's ways of connecting to you as a partner with AMP as well. So as Caroline said, we don't run programs ourselves. We're the one that support the programs that are going on across the province. So this is a great place for you to sign up and then get that connection. And I can already see there's some people that will follow up with even after this meeting, because there are other groups. Janelle, Caroline was talking earlier, we have a new youth and care program that we're going to be working on, and with groups in different areas around the province. So even Suzanne brought up some of the high risk youths they're working with as well. So I see connections to some of this programming we're moving into, that we're going to be supporting some new groups and working quite closely with children's services. And then we have individuals on our team that also have expertise in specific areas. At FASD, we actually have somebody on our team that works with Alberta Education, but part of her portfolio is FASD network in the province as well. So Kim would be a great connection for you. She just couldn't make it today. She had to step away. So there's somebody there, and same with Suzanne. There's people on our team, and I'm going to connect Lauren with Sarah on our team. So there's lots of people resources and resources on the website and ways we can connect you into the community. So really glad you all joined us today. And there's such different projects, but also they're very, very well connected to each other and to what we do as a team. So yeah, I think there's some good follow-up for us after this, but also, like I say, poke around here and look at joining with us.
And this is where you would go to find the training. It's also under resources, but here's the here's the little spiel about what you can do. It takes about an hour. There's 5 modules, but you can stop at any time and then restart. So you don't have to do it all at once. Depending on how, where your mentors are at, what their literacy levels are, they can just go online and do it themselves. Or if you want to bring your mentors together in a group and go through it with them, that's another option. If they're all on their own device, then they get a certificate at the end. So even when I bring people together, and I've usually done it with youth, so I like to do it together and then be able to talk it through, but have them on their own device so they get that certificate. And I think Andy's there. So Andy, you go onto the Moodle link, don't you, to get onto the training?
Yeah, that'll bring you to the training, and then it's a quick make an account, and then you'll have a
there we go.
email. And if not, there's an email address there, and I'll sort it out.
Perfect. And if you've got several mentors that you want to have take it, if you contact Andy, and we have his contact information on the slide too, he can set it up for you so that they don't all have to register individually. Have I got that right, Andy?
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. And he's got his contact there in the chat. So that's kind of where things are on the website. And again, under the resources, there's lots of other ones if you want to take a peek at them. The online orientation is there too. So lots of different resources that are available. And again, the newsletter lets you know about what's coming up. And they also, another one of the AMP staff, Tanya Taranjo, her area of interest and expertise is around mentoring Indigenous children and youth. So she does webinars. She's going to be working on some new resources. So all of those you'll get notified in the newsletter, the coming soon kinds of things that are happening. We always do a little survey for these webinars, because really the upcoming webinars, we try to tailor to what people at the previous webinar have said that they would like. So we do actually look at them and read them and then try and plan accordingly. So if you could take a few minutes to fill it out, that would be great. And I don't know, Al, are you able to put that in the chat if people can't use the QR code?
Yeah, let me just jump to the one I have on my desktop and I'll pull it across, unless Andy has it.
So I'll just continue and then you can take a peek at that. Oh, and there's the code and Al will put that in that. There we go. Thanks, Al. Oh, thanks, Andy. So it's in the chat now. So while you're looking at that, I'll just, and again, I don't know if, for those of you that are looking at that idea of kind of team mentoring, AMP received a grant from a private foundation around that idea of youth mentoring. So it can be in schools, it doesn't have to be in schools. But again, this foundation funds projects that look at enhancing adolescent mental well-being. And so knowing that mentoring, being a mentor, has a positive impact on mental well-being, they funded this initiative. So again, through AMP, we have some webinars and they used to be in person. This year they've been virtual, that are really focused on that idea of team mentoring. So we actually have a 2-hour webinar coming up on May 31st, and it is similar to today about planning your mentoring program specifically around teams and team mentoring. And then there'll be some more sessions next year. And I think, Al, there is sort of a kickoff summit on October 20th, if I got the date right.
Yeah, it's going to be around the same time as last year, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll start sessions in September, and then the summit in October, and then 2 more sessions to November, December. And of course, we have Mentor Month in January. And then we go out and do a lot of community work during March and April with teachers conventions and other conferences. And then May and June will be more webinars again. So yeah, we've wrapped out a really solid year for next year, and really looking forward to it, and then looking for feedback on what some of those webinars people are looking for next year.
The summit has, last year was our first year for the summit, and it was really successful. And some of the feedback we got were more sessions for youth. So I think that that's going to be built into this next one. So there'll be sessions for adults, and then there'll be some specific sessions for youth to attend. So again, you can watch for more information coming about the summit. And so again, this is just a reminder about the May 31st. So if you're looking at planning or thinking about, it could be team mentoring. So having youth mentoring, whether or not it's in school or in another kind of format or venue, then you might want to come to the 31st, and we'll focus more on that. And then in the chat, if you just want to put one thing that you're taking away from today, we would really appreciate that. The one thing that you got out of today. Oh, different types of mentoring. Did I need to connect with AMP? That's why we're here, Janelle. A bit more about what it means to mentor. Great. Thanks. All of our information is up on the slide, our contact information. And if you have any final questions, I won't speak for Al, but we're done a bit early, so I certainly don't mind sticking around if people have questions. So thank you for attending. We really appreciate it. We're really excited about the diversity of organizations represented by the people that are here today. And so often, a lot of you are coming from organizations and serving populations that we haven't seen in our webinars before. So that's been really good for us to start thinking also about what can we be doing and how can we make sure that we are meeting everybody's needs. So thanks so much for coming. Again, we will stick around if you have questions, or please feel free to reach out to any of us if you need something or think of questions after today.